Welcome to episode 36 of the Yes You Coaching podcast. I'm your host, Anna Manning. And today I'm going to be talking about confidence in community and what it means to be in community more generally, but really specifically around the stuff that you listen to this podcast for, around confidence at work and around managing your work brain. And the confidence and the solace and the strength and the healing and the fun that is found within community. And the reason that I'm doing this episode is because this is the week of International Women's Day 2023. So that was the 8th of March. And on International Women's Day, to mark International Women's Day, to celebrate it, somebody that I'd met through a women's network that I'm in, which is called the Stack World. If you're not in it and you're interested in being in a women's network, highly recommended. So I met this woman, Grace Williams, through the Stack World. And recently I was like, I think feeling the effects of being somebody who runs my own business, right? It's a solo thing right now. It won't be forever, but it is at the moment. And I live alone for the most part. And all of that comes with its challenges. And it got me thinking about how actually I needed to do more in community. Like, I love being with people. I love doing stuff in community. And as soon as I kind of said that, I was getting coached on something and I was like, I think I need to do more stuff with people. I think I need to be in community more. Grace reached out and said, hi, would you like to host a dinner with me for International Women's Day? And I was like, wow, the universe delivered me that one quickly. So I said, yeah. And we hosted that dinner last night, and 10 women, including me and Grace, met at a restaurant in Soho in London. And we talked over all things life and business and confidence. And it was great. It was great. And who knows, right? When you bring a load of people together who don't really know each other, how's that's going to go? And it was great. I think nearly all of the women there were either freelancers or they do their own thing or they have their own business. And it was so nice for me to just be in community with those people who get my struggles and the stuff that I'm doing and that I'm going through. And it made me think about the importance of community and the importance of community in the work that I do. And when we're thinking about confidence and confidence building and growing, the fact that that is something that often we can experience alone. And it's not necessarily something that we share with community. And in the world that I imagine in the future, where women get equal pay and all other types of equality and other marginalized communities, I don't think that we deal with this stuff on our own in isolation. I think we deal with this stuff in community. So that is what the episode today is going to be about. And even though a lot of the work and a lot of the coaching that I do is one-on-one with someone, it made me think about the fact that that's a community too. Even though it's a community of two, when I'm working with someone one-on-one, we become a community of two. So when you work with your coach, if you work with me, you're no longer just the one that cares intimately about your goals and your life. So do I. We are now a community of people that are engaged in whatever it is you want to be engaged in, whatever you want to develop, whatever you want to grow, whatever you want to think about. We are now a community of two. And It can be easier, can be more effective, and it certainly, for me, feels better to achieve things within community than it does completely alone. And when I started thinking about this episode, I thought, well, all of this confidence stuff that I talk about, like all of the managing your work brain, right, is really what I do. It's really what I help people to do. And for all of us who work, whatever our work is, whatever kind of, whatever we're up to, we all have a work brain that we have to manage. And I don't know anyone who doesn't get some shit from their work brain. That looks slightly different to everyone. But I don't know anyone who doesn't experience any like inner turmoil around work, whether that's self-doubt or whether it's comparison or whether it's a lack of acknowledgement or whether it is like a critical voice or whether it's like a lot of internal pressure. And I used to have all of those things, but nobody knew. When it came to dealing with that stuff, I was on my own. I was not in community in any way. And all that time that I spent dealing with that stuff on my own, like secret squirrel, Googling stuff or like buying a book that might help me, or maybe listening to a podcast when that became available. That's great. But that also was me alone. And I found that dealing with that stuff on my own, I found it isolating. And I came to the conclusion, it was an erroneous conclusion, but I came to the conclusion that it was probably only me that doubted myself like this. And it was probably only me that had this kind of critical voice inside my head at work. And I didn't tell anyone about it. I wouldn't have even considered telling anyone about it. I was like a community of one when it came to dealing with my work brain. And you might be a community of one when it comes to dealing with your work brain. Do you have anywhere where you can be completely honest about the stuff that goes through your head at work? Most of us do not. Most people are not talking about stuff. They keep it quiet. They keep it on the inside. And the problem with that is when we're isolated, when we're not in community in relation to our work brain, it erodes confidence because you maybe, like I did, assume, oh, maybe I'm the only one that has this kind of thing going on in my head. Little did I know there was all these other people around me that looked absolutely fine, but they all had this shit going on in their head too. We could have been in community. And instead, we were like isolated on our own little islands, looking good on the outside, and sometimes feeling terrible on the inside. Where's the good in that? I often tell my clients that this kind of stuff, this stuff that I help people to deal with, this mental drama around work that can erode our confidence, it can be like a vampire. It's fine in the dark and on the inside, but when you actually open a curtain and the sun shines on it, it starts crumbling to dust. But you might never know that unless you're in community. And I think that's one of the things that I am called, it might be a grand term, but that I am called to do, is to help people or to give people a place and a space to be honest and say, oh yeah, my brain does that. Oh yeah, I think that. Because being alone with this stuff, it separates us and it isolates us and it breeds shame and comparison. And actually, being in community with this stuff and being able to share it, that is one of the most healing things that we can do. At this point, you could literally tell me any of the shit your brain comes up with, and I wouldn't even flinch. Even the stuff that sounds really vile. I've heard it all many times. In my own brain as well as from other people's. And I don't want us to be isolated with this stuff anymore. I want us to be able to be in community with people who will witness our work brain and witness the struggle that can provide us with, and who will acknowledge the fact that there are struggles with the internal stuff at work, and a place which creates understanding and where you're supported and where you come to know that you're not alone. And this is like as much of a reminder for me as it is for anyone else. Like, I do this stuff, I have to go first, I have to talk about it, I have to like pull back the curtain on these particular vampires. I have to not be afraid, I have to not be ashamed, so that I can go out and tell people, this is it, you are okay, this is okay. There is a place for you to come where you can be understood and be witnessed and be acknowledged and be supported. That is my job. And that is my job in terms of being a podcast host, right? This is a community of podcast listeners. And even though everyone has got probably, you know, their earbuds or their earphones in, whatever, when they're walking around, wherever I am with you right now, you are part of this community, and you might not be able to see the other people, but believe me, they are there. You might listen to this alone and have your own private thoughts about it. I'm going to encourage you to share them with me, because we are now in community on this. You are not alone. You listening to this episode or other episodes and thinking, yeah, that's me, you are not alone. There are many, 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 many of you. So last night when we came together as that community of women around that table, it was amazing to hear people talk about the stuff that was good, the stuff that was bad, the stuff that was hard, the stuff that was a challenge. There was people that were launching a completely new brand. A couple of sisters, I'll put their details in the show notes too, that were launching a completely new brand. Like, that's a big thing to do. And just to say, yeah, you know, how does that feel? Well, it's a big thing. On days it feels scary. Yeah, I'll bet it does. And for me to be able to say to people, I'm having a tough few weeks. Oh yeah, ups and downs. Yeah, I get those too. I don't always feel great about my business, even when it's going well. I went from being isolated or feeling more isolated as a business owner, especially in, so I have online spaces, but I didn't really have anything in person. And here it was, a table of people listening and nodding and understanding. And I was hosting the dinner with Grace, as I said, but I got an awful lot out of it, because I was in community with people who witnessed me in the stuff that I was struggling with, and who acknowledged and who understood and who were supportive. That's what community is all about. I know maybe there's like I don't know if it's like a Western culture thing that we do it alone and we go it alone, and we live more isolated lives, and we move to cities where we're not as firmly planted in our communities as we would have been in the past. Yeah, all of that can be great, and also all of that can be hard. How can you create the community you need to live the life you want to live, and to have the confidence to do the things you want to do. Because this stuff is harder, I think, in isolation. So I have a couple of ways that you can come into community with me. And I would like to invite you, if you're not already, to come and be a part of one or both of those communities. Because I don't want people to be isolated in terms of the drama and the shit that their work brain comes up with. There is a place where that can be witnessed and acknowledged and supported and understood. And I promise that I will continue to create that community and think about how I can create that community, because I know it's one of the things I'm supposed to be doing. So if you have any great ideas for me about how I should be creating or contributing to community around the work that I do, then please, I am all ears. But there's a couple of ways you can be in community with me. And the first is you are already in community listening to this podcast. Consider yourself part of this podcast community. There are other people listening to the same episode on the day that you do. There are other people resonating with these episodes and thinking, yeah, me too. If you're not already, come and join the free community that I run, the Yes You Coaching community. That is a load of people who want to think about confidence, want to grow their confidence, want to be witnessed, acknowledged, understood, supported with their work brain. And if you would like to be witnessed, acknowledged, understood, supported, and encouraged with all the stuff that you deal with in your work brain, then you are warmly invited into that community with me and all of the other people that are in that community. You are not alone with any of these issues, even if you don't tell anyone about them, even if you've never told anyone about them, even if you're like I used to be, which was like a secret squirrel. Come and join us. I'll leave a link in the show notes, or you can look up the website, www.yesyoucoaching.com, and then you'll see a link that says join the community. The other way of working with me in community is to come to one of the classes which I run. So I run free classes, trainings, workshops to like get these ideas out there and to help people to manage their work brains. If you're on the if you're in the Yes You Coaching community, you'll automatically get notifications for them. We don't have one in the diary, actually. I should probably do one later in March. I probably will do one later in March. But if you come and join the Yes You Coaching community, you will get the details of that. And the reason why it's lovely to have those classes and to have people come together into community to think about stuff like comparison or speaking out or imposter syndrome or how to acknowledge yourself or how to manage your inner critic or how to deal with self-doubt. Most people, when they come into those classes, are in community on those issues for the first time. And I ask people, have you talked with other people about this stuff before? Most people say no. So they've gone from being isolated to coming into community. And during the course of those classes, seeing, okay, it's not just me that struggles with this stuff. There are other people too. Yes, there are other people like you. And there's nothing like being in an online experience with 60 other people that are like, yeah, I struggle with that too. I love that. And that's part of what I have to do to provide community for you guys. So come and join us in that community and come and take a class. They're free and they're good. I think a lot of training's pretty shit. I think mine is good. The last way is if you want to come and do some paid work with me. We have a program starting in April called Confident at Work, and that is a program this one's just for women. And it's a place where you come together in community to learn and to share and to grow your confidence. And for everyone who goes through the program, that is what happens. So you have your own individual coaching, so you can really deep dive on stuff that feels difficult or tricky just with me in a community of 2. But in a community of more than that, you come together and learn about, how do I handle that inner critical voice in my brain? How do I deal with self-doubt? How do I deal with comparison? How do I learn how to set standards so I'm not being a perfectionist? How do I acknowledge myself and the good work that I do? And all of that stuff happens in community. And the reason that I do it like that, I just used to coach people one-on-one, and that was great, and it still is great. I still do that. But it seemed a shame to only have a community of 2 when so many people were coming to me with the same problems and the same issues and thinking that they were kind of alone with it. I was like, let me build this community, this program, Confident at Work, so that people can come together and think about these things together. And it's hard at first for people to do that because most of us have never talked about them. But it's a great space to be. It's a great place to be in community where you're witnessed and acknowledged and understood and supported and encouraged. So you're invited into community. You're already in the podcast community. But come further into community with us. Come and join the SU coaching community and get more of the benefit. Be more witnessed, more acknowledged, more understood, more supported, more encouraged. And talk to other people about this stuff. So tempting to just be a secret squirrel like I used to be. And to not really share the kind of, the shit of the work brain. But if you open up the conversation, you'll find that other people are having the same thoughts, the same problems, the same issues. They might not be exactly the same, but there'll be something similar. And then you can be a community of 2 and maybe more. And one day those communities will just form big chains until we're just a world of truth tellers in community. So instead of just walking around like isolated bundles, we're connected, supported in community. That is my wish for all of us in life. But in relation to this work that I do with you, for you, that you would be supported in community, that you would have a place to come. And that's my job, to make that place for you. The table is laid. You have a seat at the table. There is a name place. Come and join us in community. And if you're thinking, oh, that would be a difficult thing for me, it's difficult to share this stuff, it's difficult to talk about it, just know that in my community, you only ever do that as much as you want to. I know there's loads of people in my community who read my coaching emails every single week, and I never hear from them. But I know they open the emails every single week, and I know they're reading them, and I know they're staying in community with me. Might be a quiet community, but it's a community nonetheless. So come and join us in community. Whether that's in the Yes You Coaching community, or whether you come and pay and do some work with me. Either way, come and be in community. Because that's one of the places that confidence can grow. Okay. That's all I have for you this week. I will see you in next week's episode. Lots of love.